right, you're in the market for a new car and you want something small and fun and stylish, but also European and electric. Mike, what are your choices?
Well, there isn't too many choices, but we have two here. We have the Mini Countryman and we have the Volvo EX30. Both are smallish crossovers that are fully electric and crazy funky. So let's get behind the wheel of these and see what they're like. As similar as these two cars are in a lot of respects, the one area it's not has to do with powertrain. They're both dual motors, but in the Mini, it has 308 horsepower and 369 pound-feet of torque, which is quite a bit. But in the EX30, it's 422 horsepower and 400 pound-feet of torque. So the Mini's set up with two 188 horsepower motors on either axle, whereas the Volvo splits power and actually has a more rear-wheel drive bias with a 268 horsepower motor sitting back there. And when you factor in the EX30's just over 4,100 pounds and this Mini's almost 4,600 pounds, there's a huge difference in terms of acceleration. The manufacturer quotes have this Mini doing 0 to 60 in 5.4 seconds, which is pretty quick, but the EX30 is said to do 0 to 60 in 3.4 seconds. And being 2 seconds quicker is quite a lot. In fact, the EX30 is the quickest Volvo ever made. Now, from a dead stop or even low speeds, both vehicles have tremendous instant torque, and you don't really notice this power difference. It's on the highway where it really shines, because the Mini, as speed builds, starts to lose power. And if you try to do a passing maneuver around 70 miles an hour, there isn't much left in the tank. Whereas the EX30 seems to just keep building power as it builds speed, and you're never really at a point where you're wishing, oh man, I need more power.
Now, while this new Countryman does take Mini's largest model in an altogether blockier direction, it's going to be hard to tell for onlookers that it's the EV you're looking at as opposed to its gas siblings. That's kind of the point. Like BMW, Mini is keeping its electric models and its gas ones looking essentially identical outside, giving buyers the choice of powertrain only, which is a really great way to do things in my opinion. Now, this is still a recognizably Mini shape, from the gaping grille outline to the upright tail. There's also a long, flat roof, which gives it a kind of a wagon vibe. R.I.P. Clubman. Now, this is almost the exact same spec of Mini that I drove at the debut almost a year ago. A really nice blue and bronze color combo, even if Mini somewhat confusingly calls the accents vibrant silver. Only real miss from a design perspective, at least to my eyes, are the 19-inch black JCW wheels that are on this because it's on winter rubber. They just could be anything. They don't highlight the design in any way. Like the Volvo, the Mini does have C-shaped taillights, just barely, and you can customize the lighting signature, which is pretty neat. Mike doesn't necessarily love the little fin on the C-pillar, but I think it is the right level of rugged with a bit of cheeky that feels appropriate for a Mini.
Both vehicles have battery packs that have about 64 kilowatt hours of usable storage. The Mini has slightly more at 64.7, but it's very close. Despite having a slightly bigger battery pack, the Volvo once again easily wins this category by offering 265 miles on a single charge, whereas the Mini only offers 212 miles. That's really low, and in our winter testing, both vehicles weren't coming anywhere near their quoted numbers, but in the Mini, this has felt even more so when you're only getting like 160, 175 usable miles per charge. And I know it probably feels like I'm piling on the Mini by now, but when it comes to max charge speeds, well, once again, the Volvo has the advantage. 153 kilowatts versus the Mini's 130. Now, in fairness, in this weather, we never got either vehicle to charge anywhere near its peak, but in optimal conditions, the Volvo will recharge slightly faster.
Now, as you can probably guess, based on the shape of the EX30, it is the tighter one in terms of interior space, although not by as much as you might think. I have plenty of room up front, and I sit pretty comfortably in the back too, because this standard glass roof means that I have a good amount of headroom. Sitting behind a taller person will cut the legroom pretty short though, and because the squab is pretty low, you have a definite knees up feel back there. There's also not a ton of storage space. These door panels look cool. I like the floating door handle, but it means that you can only fit a smallish water bottle. In terms of other storage, there's no cup holders, and there is the little removable tray in the base of the center console, which is probably where you're going to put either of your phones if you're charging from one of the two USB ports back there. I do love that both of these cars get properly adventurous with their interior trim and seating. Now the pixel design on these seats looks cool. It's a light, nice blue color, which is different, and it's made out of partially recyclable material, so that's good. Everyone I know who got into the EX30 really enjoyed the speckled material on the door and dashboard too, which is also made from recyclable material. They also enjoy these elegant door handles, which look great and make it clear they're actually door handles. Not necessarily a given in today's world. While the dashboard design is pretty simple, I have to call out the vents. Not only is the center portion a nice little contrasting bit of visual interest, but I can say during a cold snap, it gets properly warm with the heat running, so that's a win.
Dynamically, neither of these cars are going to win your local autocross. They're much more focused on efficiency, capability, and being funky people pods. If dropping the accelerator mid-corner, they both will want to just keep going straight, although I will say the Mini responds slightly better and has far better steering feel. Even though the Volvo allows you to change the feel through 3 levels, the Mini in pretty much any setting always feels a little more responsive, a little better, despite being a little heavier and a little larger. Speaking of driving modes, that's another area that the Mini does have the advantage, because this Countryman still has the full experiences, which is Mini speak for sort of an interior drivetrain combination setting. The Volvo, there are no such settings. You have just one setting and that's it. Aside from adjusting the safety systems and the steering feel, there's nothing else you're going to do in the EX30. Whereas in here, you can't exactly customize it more, but you can select through multiple preset customizations, if that makes any sense.
Despite their small size, both of these vehicles are premium models, so they come with a fair amount of high-end features that you'd expect at this price range. Things like a 360-degree camera, or advanced parking assist, adaptive cruise control, which is pretty smart, and some upgraded sound systems. Now, in terms of audio, I do slightly prefer the Minis. The Harman Kardon sound system here in the EX30 is very good and very balanced. It's just a preference thing. Both of these vehicles offload a lot of their controls to their central touchscreens, but it's the Volvo that does it almost entirely, no doubt on the road to courting Tesla drivers. If you want to adjust your exterior mirrors or your steering wheel position, well, you're doing it in the touchscreen. Even your exterior lights, I have to click the car menu, pick my lighting, and then confirm it on the steering wheel. From Volvo, the safety people. Speaking of safety, it can be a little overbearing in the EX30. If I yawn even 30 seconds into my morning drive, it'll tell me I need a break. I find that driving with polarized sunglasses when driving towards the sun also tricks the system into thinking I'm not actually paying attention to the road, despite looking dead ahead, usually at the car that stopped in front of me because of morning traffic. I do think overall this system is good. It works pretty quickly. There are some controls that are always on screen, so you know where they are, you can access them easily. And if you are in the Google ecosystem already, having Google built in makes this very easy to integrate with your day-to-day. I don't have any issues there. It's just these annoying bugbears. The important thing, though, to remember with the EX30 is, well, it can be updated. For example, the first one I drove earlier this year did not have wireless CarPlay, which was really frustrating in 2025. This one does, and it works effortlessly.
Now, electric cars are silent, obviously, but Mini does allow a little bit of sound. It's a switch you can toggle on or off, and of course, the sound the vehicle makes changes depending on the drive experience. When I say the vehicle makes the sound, I mean out of the speakers, but in go-kart, which is the sportiest setting, you can hear more spaceship sounding than really vehicle sounding, but you know, it adds a little bit. I mean, this is a Mini, it's supposed to be fun, and these are two, like I said, very unique, sort of tech-rich passenger vehicles, so this just kind of adds to the experience. Off I go. Let's see if Timeless has a more old-school car noise. Yeah, maybe.
The Mini is as adventurous, if not more so, than the EX30 in terms of cabin experience. It is my favorite color combination, this one, with the inky blue on the dashboard, kind of just fading out into the brown, and then of course it's all brown all the time in the back seat, which is the more spacious of these two. Unsurprisingly, look at the shape of the Countryman. But even beyond the shape and the additional legroom and headroom that it provides, the seats are just more comfortable back there too. I find they have more leg and back support. These seats up front, very comfortable as well. I'm not entirely sure if they're more comfortable than the Volvo. Both are good for long distances, probably longer than you're going to go on a single charge in either of them. This is fake leather, which I'm fine with. I think it looks pretty convincing, and well, it's pretty easy to clean. The other thing with the Mini that you can tell this is designed more for family use, it just has more storage. I have a 2-level little shelf set up front, one for my wireless charger, the other for just various bits and bobs, cup holders, which don't just pop in and out like the Volvo, which is a cool feature, admittedly, in the EX30. If you only need one, you only need to put one out there. There's this small cubby, which is mostly just here for, I don't know, a sandwich? A burger? I'm not sure what it's really for outside of maybe keeping your food warm. The Mini's screen itself is a bit of a jumble at first, I'm not going to lie to you. It's overwhelming because Mini is sticking to this circular screen, and I mean, it's fantastic. The OLED is very sharp, very quick. It's hard to get a sense of what you need to do when you first get in. There's a definite learning curve. After you spend some time with it, it's fine. And in typical Mini fashion, it's fun and funky and different. So I appreciate that. It's just, in both cases, I really wish there were a few more physical controls. At least there's an actual head-up display in the Mini so that I can see what my speed is without having to look off-center. I just think that is really what's missing in the Volvo's cabin. Although, strange thing with the head-up display, I don't even mind that it's the glass panel. I think that's okay in the case of the Mini. No, the weird thing is that turn signals don't show up in it, only in the center screen.
As far as ride comfort, well, neither of these vehicles really has an advantage because neither is all that good. They're set up more stiffly than I expected. In the Mini's case, I kind of get it. It's supposed to be somewhat sporty. But really, these are sort of city passenger vehicles. And on broken pavement around town, it gets very choppy in either vehicle. And even on the highway, expansion joints and potholes, you'll hear and feel it through the entire chassis. I know part of it's due to them being smaller vehicles and their wheelbase, but if you live in a city with a lot of destroyed pavement and unmaintained roads, this may not be the right segment for you. So one thing I do need to quickly touch on is braking. In the Volvo, it's pretty linear in the regular mode, and there's the option to put on one pedal driving. In the Mini, it takes a little getting used to because the vehicle's constantly looking around itself and what's ahead down the road, and if there's nothing and you get off the accelerator, it just coasts. But if it sees a vehicle in front or it knows you're approaching a stoplight or a stop sign, it'll start to add more regenerative braking. And if you're trying to modulate it while the car's trying to modulate it, it can lead to some very unsmooth braking with sudden stops or not stopping in time and then suddenly having to stab the brake. I'm sure owners will get used to it. I slowly am over the week, but it is something that takes a bit of adjustment.
Now, I thought the Mini would be the affordable choice here. I was wrong. Now, it's not that bad in America. It's $50,475, including destination, which is pretty good for a vehicle that's now much bigger, even if it does have less range. But in Canada, it is a hair over $73,000 as equipped, which is kind of frightening. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. The Volvo, by comparison, is $48,395, including destination in America, which is, a $2,000 difference. That's really not that bad. But in Canada, it's $64,870, which is a difference of over $8,000. Oof. Given the Mini's disadvantages in terms of power and range, that's a big hit. So earlier this winter, I did drive the single motor EX30, and I wasn't entirely convinced, but with the dual motor, and especially with driving it back to back to the Mini, I appreciate this more. It still has flaws, but it's good.
Yeah, but I think we'd both agree the Mini is probably the better overall vehicle in terms of passenger space, the way the tech's laid out, and the way the interior ergonomics are. But these are small EVs, and the Mini has a lot less power, a lot less range, it charges a little slower, and it's more expensive, so it's kind of hard to give this the win.
It's true, which means at the end of this, it's the Volvo EX30 that is our winner in this comparison.